My name is Paula. I am 38 years old. I live in a small town with my two children, Leo and Sophia. Until a few months ago, I lived here with my husband, Marco. Now we are separated. It was not easy for me. It was not easy for the children either. The house feels quiet now. Still, I try to smile for them. Marco and I were married for 15 years. We met when I was very young. He was kind, funny, and full of ideas. In the beginning, we were happy. We worked hard, built a home, and had two beautiful children. But after some years, small problems grew. We argued often about money, work, and time. I wanted more peace, and Marco wanted more freedom. We loved each other, but we could not live together anymore. So Marco moved to a small flat in the city. Even after he left, we talked often. He came to visit the children. Sometimes he brought small gifts for them. He always smiled, but I could see sadness in his eyes. I also missed him, but I did not know how to say it. One warm summer week, my father, Albert, called me. He said, "Paula, your mother and I will have our silver wedding anniversary this weekend." He sounded happy and full of energy. I smiled and said, "That's wonderful, Dad. We must celebrate." He laughed and said, "Yes, I have a plan. We will have a barbecue in the garden. All the family and friends can come." I thought it was a lovely idea. My parents love small family parties, but then my father said something that surprised me. "I will also invite Marco." He said he should come too. He is still part of the family. I felt quiet for a moment. My parents liked Marco very much. My father and Marco often went hunting together. They were members of the same club. For my father, the separation did not change his feelings. He still saw Marco as a son. I didn't want to make him sad, so I said softly, "If you want Dad, invite him." That evening, I sat on the sofa, thinking, would it be strange if Mark came? Would it be difficult to see him again in the garden, near the children, near me? Part of me was nervous, but another part of me wanted to see him. Maybe we could talk again. Maybe it would be good for the children, too. 2 days later, I called Marco. I said, "Dad is planning a barbecue on Saturday. He wants you to come." Marco was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Of course. Your father is a good man. I would like to be there." I felt a small smile on my face. He also asked if you can be the grill master. I added. Marco laughed. "So I will work too, not just eat." "All right. Tell him I will bring my best barbecue tools." When I told my father, he was very happy. He said, "Good. Marco makes the best grilled meat." I knew he was right. Marco always loved to cook outside. Saturday arrived quickly. The afternoon was bright and warm. The sky was clear, and the air smelled like summer. My father prepared the tables in the garden. My mother made salads and cold drinks. the children ran around with their cousins. Music played softly from an old stereo. It felt like old times. When Marco arrived, I felt my heart beat a little faster. He looked relaxed, wearing jeans and a white shirt. He smiled at me and said, "Hi, Paula, it's good to see you." I smiled back and said, "Hi, Marco. Thank you for coming." We both looked at the children. They ran to him and hugged him. He laughed and lifted Sophia in his arms. Marco went to the grill with my father. They talked and laughed together like before. From the kitchen window, I watched them. It was strange but nice. I saw how my father still enjoyed his company. He even forgot his glasses, but Marco helped him see the food on the grill. The smell of grilled meat filled the air. Everyone was happy. Friends, family, laughter. I looked around and thought maybe this was what we all needed. A moment without anger, without blame. Later, Marco came to me with a small box. In his hand, he said, "I have a present for your father. Can I give it to him now?" I said, "Of course." We walked together to my father. Marco smiled and said, "Alberto, I wanted to thank you for inviting me. You have always been kind to me." He opened the box. Inside was a beautiful knife with a horn handle. My father's eyes grew wide. "Oh, this is wonderful. A hunting knife from Mula. It is a famous Spanish brand," he said. Marco laughed softly. "Yes, it's for collectors. I thought you would like it." My father thanked him again and again. Everyone admired the gift. When the sun began to go down, the sky turned orange. The children sat around the table eating ice cream. The adults drank coffee and talked quietly. I sat near Marco and watched the light fade. He looked peaceful, and so did I. As he was about to leave, I walked with him to his car. He said it was a great evening. "Your family is amazing." I smiled and said, "Thank you for coming, Marco. You made it special." Then, without thinking much, I leaned forward and kissed his cheek. For a second, he looked surprised. Then he smiled. "Good night, Paula," he said. "Good night," I replied. Before he drove away, I said softly, "Can we talk tomorrow?" He looked at me through the open window. "Yes," he said, "I'd like that." When I went back inside, my father was putting things away. He smiled and said, "It was a good evening, wasn't it?" I nodded. Yes, it was. But my thoughts were already on the next day. That night, after everyone went to bed, I sat by the window. The garden was quiet now. I could still smell the smoke from the grill. I thought about Marco, about the way he smiled, about how natural everything felt. Maybe it was only one evening, but it had been warm, simple and real, and maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something new. Before I continue rest of the story, please like, subscribe and share this video. Tell me in the comments where you are listening from. Your support means so Much to me. Now let's continue. The next morning, I woke up early. Sun was already shining through the window. The house was quiet because the children were still asleep. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table. My thoughts were on Marco. I wondered what we would talk about. I also felt a little nervous. When the children came down, they were still talking about the barbecue. Leo said, "Mom, can we do that again?" Next week. It was fun. I smiled. Maybe, I said, but only if Grandpa has enough food for everyone again. Sophia laughed. And Daddy can cook again. Hearing her call him Daddy warmed my heart, even though Marco and I were not together. He had never stopped being a good father. He visited them every week. He called often to ask about their school. He never forgot their birthdays. I respected that about him. Around noon, Marco called. His voice was calm and friendly. "Hi, Paula, are you busy today?" I said, "Not really. The kids are watching a movie," he said. "Can I come over? I want to talk like you asked." I felt my hands shake a little. "Yes," I said, "come anytime." When I opened the door, he was standing there with a small bag in his hand. "I brought croissants," he said with a smile. "For the kids," I laughed. "They will love that." We went to the kitchen and made coffee. Again, the children ran to him, happy and loud. It felt so normal, like old times. After a while, they went outside to play, and we were alone at the table. Marco looked around the house. "Everything looks the same," he said. "Yes," I said. "I didn't change much," he nodded. Slowly, "I miss this place sometimes," he said quietly. I looked at him and felt something gentle in my heart. "Marco," I said, "thank you for yesterday." Everyone was happy. Dad couldn't stop talking about your gift. He smiled. "I'm glad. Your father's a good man. He never made me feel like an outsider." We talked for a long time. The conversation felt easy. We spoke about the children, about work, and about our lives since we separated. He said, "You know, Paula, not everything between us was bad. We had some really good years, too." I looked down at my cup. "Yes, we did," I said, "but then things changed." He nodded. "Maybe we both changed. I worked too much and I didn't listen enough." His voice was soft and full of regret. "I think I forgot what was important." I stayed quiet for a moment. I thought about all the evenings I spent alone. While he worked late, I thought about how I felt tired of waiting for him to care more, but I also remembered his laughter, his jokes, and the way he always helped with the kids. Finally, I said, "I also made mistakes." I stopped talking too. I just wanted peace. Maybe I didn't fight hard enough for us. He looked surprised. "Paula, you always tried. I see that." Now, the children came in then holding flowers they picked from the garden. Sophia said, "Daddy, look, we made a Small bouquet. Marco smiled and took it. It's beautiful, he said. Then he looked at me and added softly, like your mother. For a moment, we just looked at each other. The air felt still. Then I stood up quickly and said, I'll make more coffee. I needed to move before my emotions showed on my face. After Marco left that afternoon, I sat alone for a while. I kept thinking about what he said. Maybe we had both needed time apart to understand what we truly wanted. The next few days were busy. I went to work at the small library where I worked part-time. The children went to school, but Marco's words stayed in my mind. Sometimes he sent messages to ask how the kids were, but I felt that maybe he wanted to say more. On Wednesday evening, my phone rang. Again, it was Marco. Hey, he said, I found something at my flat. It's your old book, the one about cooking. I laughed. Oh, you still have that? He said, yes, it's on my kitchen shelf. Maybe that's why my food never tastes good. The book is missing from your house. I smiled. You can keep it, I said. You cook better than me anyway. He laughed softly. I doubt that. The next weekend, my parents invited us all for lunch again. They loved having everyone together. My mother made roast chicken and my father set the table in the garden. Marco came again, this time bringing a bottle of wine. He greeted everyone politely. It was strange how natural everything felt. The children were happy, my parents were smiling, and Marco was kind and gentle. He helped my mother carry plates. He talked with my father about hunting, and he even made jokes that made everyone laugh. After lunch, while the children played, Marco asked, can we walk for a bit? I agreed. We walked down the small road behind the house. The air was fresh and the sound of birds came from the trees. For a moment we were quiet. Then he said, Paula, I think about you a lot. I looked at him but didn't speak. He continued, I miss what we had. I know I can't change the past, but I wish I could. His eyes looked serious, but gentle. I know we hurt each other, but I still care about you. I felt my throat tighten, but I stayed calm. Marco, we tried before. It was hard, he nodded. Yes, but maybe now we understand more. I want to do things better for the kids. And for you. I didn't answer right away. I needed time to think. I said, let's take it slowly. He agreed. That's all I want. That evening, when we returned to my parents' house, my father smiled at us. You two took a long walk, he said. Marco smiled. We talked. He said simply. My father nodded, a small knowing look in his eyes. The days after that felt lighter. Marco came by more often. Sometimes he helped Leo with his homework. Sometimes he brought ice cream for Sophia. I watched them laugh together, and my heart softened a little more each time. One evening, after the children went to bed, I was cleaning the table when I saw the old photo album on the shelf. I took it down and opened it. There were pictures from our wedding, from trips, and from birthdays. In each one, we looked so happy. I smiled and touched one photo where Marco was holding baby Sophia. His eyes were full of love. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I started to feel hope again. Maybe we could find our way back. Maybe love was not gone. That night, before going to bed, I texted Marco. I wrote, "Thank you for today." The children were happy. He replied, "I was happy too. Good night, Paula." I smiled and closed my phone. I didn't know it yet, but our story was starting again. A week passed after our walk. The days were warm, and the air smelled like summer. The children had finished school, and they played in the garden every afternoon. Marco visited often. Sometimes he came to take the kids to the park. Sometimes he stayed for dinner. Each visit felt easier, more natural. We laughed more. We talked about small things like what to cook or where to go on the weekend. The house felt full again. I started to feel calm when he was near. One Friday evening, I was in the kitchen making soup when Marco came by. He smiled and said, "Do you need help?" I said, "No, thank you. It's almost ready." He looked around and said, "It smells good, just like before." I smiled quietly. "Yes, maybe," I said. After dinner, we sat in the living room while the children played with their toys. Marco said softly, "Paula, I feel happy here. I feel like I belong again." His words made my heart warm. I said, "It feels nice having you here. The children love it." He looked at me for a moment and said, "And what about you?" I looked down, pretending to fix Sophia's toy. "I don't know," I said quietly. "It's too soon." He smiled gently. "I understand. I just wanted to say how I feel." The next morning, my father came to visit. He brought fresh bread and cheese. He sat at the table and said, "You look happy, Paula." I smiled. "Yes, Dad, things are good." He nodded slowly. "You know, your mother and I are old. Now, we just want to see you smile. Life is short. Don't waste it being angry." I listened to his words. They were simple but true. That afternoon, Marco came again to take the children for ice cream. I watched them leave. He looked back and waved. I waved too. It felt good but also a little strange. I wondered if I was ready to trust again. The next day, Marco called and asked if I wanted to go out with him and the kids for a small picnic. I said yes. We went to the lake nearby. The children ran around and laughed. Marco spread a blanket and opened a basket full of sandwiches, fruit, and juice. It was a beautiful day. The sun was warm and the sky was blue. I looked at Marco and said, "You always forget something." Did you bring napkins? He laughed. This time, yes, I'm learning. We sat together, watching the children play by the water. For a while we didn't speak. Then he said quietly, Paula, do you ever think we could live together again? I turned my head to look at him. His eyes were soft and full of hope. I didn't answer right away. I looked at the children, at how happy they were. I thought about our home, about the years we shared. I thought about how much I had missed his presence. Finally, I said, maybe, but I don't want to rush. The children need peace. I need peace too. He nodded. I promise I will make it right this time. I will be patient. When we got home that evening, the children were tired but smiling. As they went to bed, Sophia hugged me and said, Mom, can Daddy stay here tonight? I smiled and said, not tonight, sweetheart. But maybe one day. She nodded sleepily and closed her eyes. After I turned off the light, I walked to the kitchen. Marco was still there, helping clean up. I said, you don't have to do that. He smiled. I like helping. We stood there quietly for a moment. Then he said, Paula, I know it will take time, but I want to come home again, not for me but for all of us. I looked at him. I need to think about it, I said honestly. He nodded. I'll wait. Then he left. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought about everything, the fights, the silence, the distance, and now the kindness again. I realized that maybe love didn't disappear. It only became quiet for a while. A few days later, my father called me. Again, he said, how are things with Marco? I said, better. He is trying. My father laughed. Good. I always said he was stubborn, but not a bad man. 1 week later, Marco came to the house. With a box, he said, I brought something for the kids. Inside the box were small toys, and under them I saw a paper. It was a family photo taken years ago before things went wrong. We were all smiling. He said softly, I want this picture back on the wall. I looked at the photo and felt tears in my eyes. Maybe it's time, I said quietly. That weekend, he moved a few of his things back into the house. The children were very happy. They ran to show him their rooms, their drawings, their toys. The house was full of laughter again. That night, we all ate dinner together. My father called to check how it went. I said, Dad, we're all home again. He said, I knew it. I told you the barbecue would bring everyone together. I laughed. Yes, Dad, you were right. He said proudly. And what did I tell you? Good food fixes everything. When I hung up the phone, I turned to look at Marco. He was helping Sophia with her drink, and Leo was showing him new book. I felt calm. I felt home. Later that evening, when the children went to bed, Marco and I sat outside in the garden. The air was cool and the stars were bright. The same garden. Everything had started again, he said. Softly. Do you know something funny? The knife I gave your father, it wasn't from Spain. I looked at him surprised. What do you mean? He smiled. I bought it during my trip to Thailand. It was cheap, but I liked how it looked. I didn't think he'd care about the brand. I started to laugh. He loves that knife. He tells everyone it's from a famous Spanish brand. Marco laughed too. Then let's not tell him the truth. Let's keep it as our little secret. We both laughed quietly. Then we fell silent. The air was still. Marco looked at me and said, I'm happy. Paula, I don't need anything else. I smiled and said, I'm happy too. That night, as I turned off the lights, I looked around the house. It felt alive. Again. The sound of the children's soft breathing came from their rooms. Marco was in the kitchen washing dishes. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace, not the quiet kind that comes from being alone, but the warm kind that comes from being together again. Maybe we had made mistakes. Maybe we had needed time apart too. Understand what truly mattered. But now, we were together again, and this time we were ready to begin again. Not with big promises, but with small, honest love. And it all started with one barbecue evening. Thank you for listening to my story. Did it touch your heart? Please like, share, and subscribe to Basic English Stories. Your support means so much, and together, we can keep learning English through real stories.